What's up, guys? It's Brian from the Cybersecurity YouTube channel. I'm here to talk about the VMware ransomware that's spreading like wildfire through the internet right now as we speak, infecting thousands of servers across the globe. CISA has come out with a script to help try and fix it, but the cybercriminals already pivoted and changed their ransomware, and that's no longer working. We're going to get into it. I'm going to update you in the video today. But make sure you like and subscribe. Like the video, subscribe to the channel before we move on. Let's get into it. All right, so here's what we have going on. We have a massive ransomware campaign attack going on with VMware servers. So VMware servers are basically virtualized servers. So the two big ones that are out there today are Hyper-V and VMware. That's what most people use out there today. And VMware has been under attack for a very long time. They've released many patches over the last several years that were patching or taking care of various vulnerabilities that were discovered along the way with their product. There's a lot of companies out there that use VMware, and a big problem with this is just like we see with Microsoft Exchange servers. A lot of these servers that companies have are accessible via the internet. And depending on how they secure, if they secure those servers at all, can really determine how quickly or how easily a hacker can get into those servers. But as it stands today, a recent wave of attacks have occurred on companies' VMware servers because of a number of vulnerabilities that exist with VMware. And cybercriminals were able to build tools that exploit these vulnerabilities very quickly, and this is running like wildfire. And you know, we have a bunch of things going on right now that I kind of want to update everybody on. So we already know that these it is known as ESXiArgs ransomware has hit almost 4,000 servers at this point. It's probably higher than that. That's what we know about. That's what we can kind of detect. This is a lot of companies that are going to be affected by this that we're going to hear about down the road that we don't really know about now. I mean, we're talking 3,800 servers that are being impacted right now. So I'm sure somebody who sees this video is going to be somebody who has one of these servers that's being impacted by this event. The other thing that we need to point out is everybody thought like CISA, or the U.S. government's cybersecurity wing, came up with some script to fix this problem. And I'm going to get into that in a little bit. But we already see the hackers who are behind this pivoting, so that script is no longer effective. And we're talking about these things happening and unfolding right in front of our eyes in less than 48 hours. So we went from everybody knowing that the attack is underway, companies were being ransomwared, CISA then coming out and providing a tool that was supposed to, or at least try to decrypt some of the encrypted servers that were running on these VMware systems. And then a few hours later, maybe less than 12 hours later, they pivoted again, the hackers, and the hackers now changed their source code so that the CISA script no longer works or no longer decrypts the servers like they have been doing in the past. So just like I talk about all the time on this channel, cybersecurity is very, very much a cat and mouse game at this point. Cybersecurity researchers and the FBI and CISA, they look at what these cyber criminals are doing, and then after they figure out what they're doing, they can build things like decryption tools like we saw here. And then cyber criminals look at what security researchers are doing and what law enforcement's doing, and then they pivot. So here we have a pivot of, an attack in the as this is all transpiring, and this is spreading like wildfire, and they were able to quickly pivot and continue their attacks on companies. So a couple of things I'm going to point out with the CISA. They did obviously provide, as I mentioned, a script to try to help fix this. They also go into what you need to do to mitigate this vulnerability from your VMware system. I am going to link to that in the description below if you have not seen that already. And that's what you're going to follow to secure your servers if they're not already encrypted. And then once you get them back online, you want to follow these recommendations. But as we're also seeing that the a Bleeping Computer article that I'm going to link to also in the description points out that the new ESXiArgs ransomware version prevents VMware ESXi recovery. And it goes on to state that the new ESXiArgs ransomware attacks are now encrypting more extensive amounts of data, making it much harder, if not impossible, to recover encrypted VMware ESXi virtual machines. It started last Friday, and it encrypted over 3,000 internet-exposed VMware ESXi servers using this ransomware. And preliminary reports indicated that the devices were breached using old VMware vulnerabilities. However, some victims have stated that this was that these things were remediated and things were disabled on their devices, and they were still being breached and encrypted. So it could very well be that we are seeing not only previous vulnerabilities being used, but there could be some 0 days involved here, and that's why we're seeing this continue on after the release of the script that CISA provided to help people with this issue. I think people unfortunately got a little ahead of themselves and breathed a sigh of relief the other day when this came out from CISA, thinking that this was like the silver bullet that was going to get them back up and running. And people are quickly finding out that that's not the case. And I guarantee you there's also people out there who probably used the recovery tool but then didn't follow the remediation steps, and then they got hit again with this new version of the ransomware. And unfortunately, this time around, they're not going to be able to recover their servers as easily as they did with the CISA tool. So basically, without getting into too much crazy detail, I'll link to, like I said, the article in the description below. But this is basically what security researchers are saying, is that the changes that they made in the encryptor to alternate between encrypting 1 megabyte of data and skipping 1 megabyte of data, and basically all files over 128 megs will now have 50% of their data encrypted, making them likely unrecoverable. So this change also prevents the previous recovery tools from successfully recovering machines, as the flat files will have too much data encrypted to be usable. So basically, they were only encrypting a small amount of data before, and now they're encrypting a lot more, which makes the CISA tool renders it useless at this point. It also made a minor change to the ransomware note by no longer including Bitcoin addresses in the ransomware note, as shown below, and it's in the article if you want to check it out. But basically, they are masking the Bitcoin address because they don't want security researchers, the removal of the Bitcoin address. Security researchers won't be able to track payments anymore in the future, and that's a big piece of cybersecurity these days. Is there's companies out there that trace where all this money goes and how it moves. It's all very interesting. And it's all information that's used to kind of figure out who's behind it and who's doing what and what they're doing. And all that information is now being obfuscated by the removal of this key. So the article goes on to say, however, there's even a bigger concern, that the admin who shared the news samples said that SLP was disabled on their server. That's one of the vulnerabilities, and one of the remediations was to disable SLP. Their server was still breached again. So it already was breached, and then they breached again. So this could potentially mean that there's a 0-day out there that's being used in these attacks, because the admin said they also checked for a particular backdoor seen in previous attacks and it was not found. So it's very confusing how this individual server was breached again. So I promise I will continue to update you on this. This isn't the last we heard of this. This is unfolding as we speak. I wanted to get this video out there so people started to become aware. Obviously, you're probably interested in VMware and this, ESXi ransomware if you're watching this video. So if you have any experience or you want to share in your comments, I'd love to hear from you down below in the comments. But, VMware has been something that has been attacked a lot lately. So if you use this, if you have this in your business, please make sure you have somebody responsible for keeping this thing secure and up to date. Because there's right now, if we go to the search engine Shodan, there's still over 2,000 servers on the internet that are exposed with versions of VMware that are vulnerable to these types of attacks. So we know that these servers exist out there. We know they're not patched. We know that people have these things live on the internet. That's what Shodan tells us. So please make sure you're working with somebody who's capable of maintaining your server and getting it up to date as soon as possible. Reach out to us if you need any more information or you have questions. You can contact us. There's information in the description below. Please remember to like and subscribe to our channel, and I will see you guys in the next video. Stay safe out there.